James Bond is one of the most recognizable characters in film. Having been featured as a character in over 20 films, the style and brand recognition of Bond is iconic. Out of the many actors to have played Bond, the most recognizable to modern audiences is probably either Daniel Craig, Pierce Brosnan, and of course, the progenitor, Sean Connery. Along with a storied history in film, the Bond IP has also ventured into video games for many years, slating releases all the way back to the early 80s. But I would say the most recognizable Bond game for those of us born before and around the turn of the century would have to be GoldenEye. The sleek first-person action was revolutionary for the time on home consoles.
Oh, player, this is your ass, player. This is your ass, player. You don't know nothing about this, player. Oh, shit!
Nintendo made a boatload of money. Rareware was put on the map, and Bond once again proved printed money for MGN and Eon Productions. Nintendo seemingly had not foreseen the value of the Bond IP, and had only worked a one-time deal with MGM for GoldenEye, so when it hit the market and made waves, EA stepped in and pushed for a multi-game deal. This resulted in a string of successful Bond games in the early 2000s, including the great Everything or Nothing and the legendary Nightfire, along with quite a few racing games for some reason. Needless to say, the sweatshops of EA were in full swing, cranking out Bond games left and right. In each of the EA James Bond era games, there was a through line as well. Pierce Brosnan. He was the current Bond at the time, and with that, his likeness and style was used throughout each of the games, including his penchant for psychopathic mass murder. The reason I mention this is because we are not looking at any of the Brosnan Bond games today. No, today instead we are looking at 007 From Russia with Love. The reason I chose this game in particular was A, I own it as a kid, B, the copy I bought in the garage sale never worked, so this is me checking off a bit of old disappointment, and C, this is the only Bond game to use Sean Connery's likeness. Along with that, this game is also an adaptation of a classic Bond film, From Russia with Love. The film of the same name has a fairly standard Bond plot, and the game does loosely follow that same outline. Bond is sent to Istanbul to steal a Russian encryption device called the Lecter, and also take a beautiful Russian agent back to the West. Simple, right? Well, it turns out that the evil Spectre is pulling the strings behind the scenes, attempting to lure Bond to Turkey in order to kill him as revenge for the death of Dr. No in the first Bond film. In the film, things are pretty simple. Bond does his due diligence, gets the device, gets the girl, kills like 5 guys, including the shark captain from Jaws, and then has a weird fight scene with an old lady in a chair. It's typical Bond flair, a bit boring, misogynistic, but suave.
I think my mouth is too big.
No, it's the right size.
I mean, look at Sean Connery in this film. Would.
I would say Sean Connery might be one of the most attractive men ever. He's just fucking something about it works. I don't know why.
He has a high charisma. That's what it is. It's working on you. Even you want to bang him.
Yeah, even I want to be a Bond girl.
And overall, it's one of the better reviewed Bonds of the Connery era and legendary in its own right. So it's no wonder why EA Redwood Shores decided to choose this Bond film just to kind of shake things up.
A dry martini. Shaken, not stout.
007 From Russia with Love takes all of these different moments and, while still following the basic plot outline, cranks the action up to 11. There is no quiet espionage, no sleuthing in this game. Instead, there's a constant stream of guys running towards you. There's a variety of weapons and a simple upgrade system, some minor set pieces where you get a jetpack, shoot down a helicopter, drive the iconic Aston Martin, or ride on a goddamn boat for literally 20 fucking minutes. Outside of this, the game really doesn't have that much to offer in terms of variety. Early game, there is some great setup, with the first mission being a gun battle in Parliament or the station in Istanbul with a literal fucking helicopter flying through the roof. Pretty bland middle section, and then once again set piece after set piece. This game really feels more like Call of Duty with a James Bond coat of paint than anything else. A feature of note would be the takedown system and Bond moments. These are not necessarily unique to this game, as I know 2002's Nightfire also had Bond moments, but they do manage to break up the pace and add a slight bit of variety and value to exploration, although some are a bit out of place and pointless. That was a Bond moment? Seriously? Otherwise, From Russia with Love's gameplay does start to get a bit stale around the 3 to 4 hour mark, and it's unfortunate as there is a style and veneer to this title that feels like it was begging for more, but just couldn't get there. And it speaks to a fundamental flaw with most Bond games and action games in general: the refusal of quiet time. See, now, there's this weird idea in gaming and FPSs that if a player is not constantly shooting guys or blowing shit up, that they're going to turn the game off. While this can be true for titles like, say, Doom, there's also a flip side to that coin, where too much action can also bore a player over time as well, numbing your brain into mush as you mindlessly press the right trigger and blow up another car. From Russia with Love deeply suffers from this problem. By the time I got to the final run through of boss fights, I was completely checked out and really just trying to finish the game. Compare this on the other hand to 2002's Nightfire, where there's a strange balance of over-the-top action and a surprising amount of sleuthing and spy work to break up the mindless run and gunning. God, I should have done a video on that game instead. The other jarring aspect for me was mainly how weird it feels to have Sean Connery's Bond gunning down hundreds of nameless goons. In all of Sean Connery's time as Bond, he has an on-screen kill count of 72. Yeah, I fucking looked it up. And guess what? If we exclude Lazenby and Dalton's run as Bond, that's the lowest kill count of any Bond. Even being beaten by Roger Moore, for God's sake.
What is
What
going
the fuck
on?
is going on?
Where's the space shuttle? Where's the space shuttle? He's got the poncho. He's the man with no name.
It hasn't. Okay.
He is.
Sure.
He's totally doing Clint Eastwood. Oh my god. Just straight up Clint Eastwood. What the fuck?
My point is that despite this game getting the likeness and voice of Sean Connery, the game itself is treated as a Brosnan-style Bond, full of endless gunfights and explosions. While it's cool at first, it just starts to wear thin, and no set piece can really save it at that point. So now, the fundamental question. Do I recommend 007 From Russia with Love? Sure, fuck it, why not? I would say the best way to enjoy From Russia with Love would be as a double feature. Watch the movie first, grab some friends, get some popcorn, buy a drink, and sit down, make fun of it, but also take it in for what it is. It's a classic cheesy Bond flick.
Something, something Cold War, something, something Gypsies.
Something, something Bond would take them both if he had the chance.
Oh yeah, 100%. They're fighting over him. Oh my god. They gotta remove more clothes and get serious and fight.
What happened to their skirts? They didn't. What happened to their? When did that
They
happen?
have to show more skin. This has nothing to do with the plot, but it's
Nothing.
treated so seriously.
Nothing whatsoever.
It's a highlight of the movie so far.
And then immediately afterwards, fire up your GameCube or your PlayStation real console and totally not an emulator, and play the fucking game. And I think you will have a good time. But otherwise, do I think it's a legendary, super important game that you should play because it's something you've missed out on and you need to play it before you die? Absolutely fucking not. This game is a one-trick pony, but it does have a bit of value to it. And if you're into video game history, it's interesting that the same studio that made this game and some other Bond games went on to make fucking Dead Space. So, hey, everything's kind of relative, right? Anyways, have a good one.